Hello, and thanks for joining us on the Sportscast podcast with me, Liam. This is the pre-event special for the English Football League returning this weekend. We'll have a quick look across the three leagues, go through who's strengthened, who's lost, who's favourites for promotion, relegation, and go from there. So, this weekend sees the return of the EFL, with the first game coming on Friday night between Sheffield Wednesday and Southampton. Sheffield Wednesday back in the Championship after a few years out. Southampton down in the Championship from being relegated from the Premier League. The bookies' favourites for the Championship, quite obvious: Leicester, Southampton, two teams that have come down from the Premier League. And then Sunderland are also tipped after going very close this year, last season. For relegation would be Plymouth, Rotherham, Huddersfield, QPR, with Plymouth and Rotherham coming up from League One last season. Also tipped for relegation's Birmingham, who I think have done pretty well with their transfers this season. They've had a bit of an injection as well. They've also had, notably, Tom Brady become an investor into the club. Maybe they could be doing a Wrexham. Transfers in and out. Leicester probably have lost two of the biggest players in Harvey Barnes and Maddison, who's gone to Tottenham. But they've brought in Winks and Cody, so two very experienced Premier League players. Winks probably bringing a bit of stability into that centre midfielder, with Tielemans leaving on a free to Aston Villa, so that's quite a good backup option. Connor Cody covering the sort of centre half with Johnny Evans leaving. Sunderland have brought in Joe Bellingham from Birmingham, obviously brother of Jude Bellingham, massive prospect that they are really looking forward to. They've also brought in Selt from PSV and Semedo from Benfica, two very big signings for the North East club. Watford have lost sort of more than they've brought in. They've lost Pedro to Brighton, Sarr and Tom Cleverley, who's retired. Stoke have added 8 players. Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday have both been pretty quiet, but I know funds are massively affecting Sheffield Wednesday. A lot of going on with their owners behind the scenes. Norwich have added from abroad 2 free. They've got Ashley Barnes and Shane Duffy, two, I think, very, very good Championship players. Shane Duffy had a very good season a couple of years ago with Celtic, and obviously being back at Brighton, I think that's a very, very good move for him, first team football. Middlesbrough had a very strong season last year. They brought in Dieng in goal. That's probably the pick of the bunch for their transfers. He's been pretty solid with QPR. He had a season on loan a few years ago at Doncaster Rovers, where he was a massive sort of figure for them. Leeds have lost a few, but they've added Ethan Ampadu, which a few people think probably that's maybe the signing of the Championship. Blackburn have lost Bradley Dack on a free. He's gone to Sunderland now, so again they've really recruited well under Mowbray. And Brereton Diaz, who has gone to Spain on a free. So two big players there lost for Blackburn on a free. They've brought in Bloxham and Sigurdsson on loan from CSKA Moscow. Sigurdsson has been touted to be an extremely good centre forward, so hopefully he can hit the ground running. Birmingham, probably the busiest, bringing in Ethan Lade, Tyler Roberts, Sanderson. They've lost Chong, Bellingham, George Friend and Troy Deeney. With League 1 and 2, most of the transfers are sort of between clubs in their league, so or free transfers. There's nothing really sort of too much in the sense of bringing in big names, big money signings across them leagues, unfortunately. Just purely funding that filters down. But League One favourites being Derby, Barnsley, Peterborough, Portsmouth. Portsmouth are sort of really pushing on now from everything that's happened over the last sort of 10, 15 years with them. Favourites for relegation is Fleetwood, Carlisle, Cheltenham and Northampton. Again, generally it's the teams that come up that are favourites to go back down. Burton have released many players, but they've brought in Jamal Blackman, the goalkeeper, who's had sort of very good stints across the Premier League and Championship. Carlisle have brought in Daniel Butterworth from Blackburn, a striker that can sort of bring a bit of stability definitely to that league. Leyton Orient have brought in Ethan Galbraith from Manchester United. Peterborough, probably the biggest fee really to come through League One, selling Jack Taylor to Ipswich for 1.8 million, which for Peterborough, I mean, when you look at the sort of money they've brought in recently, that's sort of quite a low fee with Ivan Toney and Owen Watkins. Portsmouth have lost Said to Bournemouth. He's gone up a league. And then Alfie May has gone from Cheltenham to Charlton. Alfie May sort of coming from the non-league to Doncaster Rovers to then Cheltenham to then Charlton. So that's a really good step up for him. League Two, the favourites. Wrexham, Stockport, Notts County, Mansfield. I think that's a little bit, maybe getting a little bit carried away with the Ryan Reynolds, Rob McElhenney sort of spirit there. Yes, them and Notts County really did push the conference, really sort of was out there. But to just be favourites to win League Two, I think that's a big ask. The ones to watch would be Doncaster Rovers, who've been very, very busy this year. They had a bit of a iffy season last year with some managers, but they've got Grant McCann back. They've brought in Richard Wood, Ian Lawler, DJ Santona, Tyler Roberts from Wolves on loan, which is a massive sign for the Jamaican international. And Broadbent in from Sheffield United as well. So they've recruited extremely well under Grant McCann. Favourites relegation, Crawley, Harrogate and Morecambe. So unlike the other leagues, the teams that came up from the league below were actually favourites to win the league, not to go down. Harrogate have brought in Jack Daly from the neighbours Huddersfield. Stockport, for me, have probably got the most notable, aside from the Tyler Roberts to Doncaster, signing really in Nick Powell from Stoke, the former Wigan, Manchester United player. I think it's a fantastic player who's never really sort of lived up to his prospect, but going down into League Two, and that's probably why Stockport are up there. They've got the money, they've got the backing, so they should be doing well. They've brought in Chadwick from Hull and Jordan Smith from Nottingham Forest. So again, players they've brought in from a couple of leagues above rather than around their own league. Wrexham have been quiet. Obviously, you've had Paul Mullen get injured on the pre-season with his clash with Nathan Bishop, but they have brought in Will Boyle, the defender from Huddersfield. So I do think we're in for, it's obviously a long season. I think there'll be a lot of ups, a lot of downs for a lot of teams. I think the team with the biggest surprise will probably be Doncaster Rovers in League Two after a pretty poor season from where they should have finished last year. I think they could probably do something around the League Two, and maybe I think Birmingham, although the favourites for relegation, I think they can finish top half of the Championship, with Sunderland, for me, probably going to be in that top two. That's it for the EFL pre-event special. Next week we will have the Premier League special, looking at who's done what in the transfer activity, who's sort of any managerial changes, anyone that's going to stand out, any particular signing, and then look forward to who we think's going to be winning the league. As normal, you can catch us on Instagram and Twitter, Sportscast Podcast Sportscast Pod UK. I've been Liam. Thank you.